So really what you see here is more of a financial series of tiers. So we started with what would it take to just replace what we're doing and make sure that every student who's doing an online course right now, most of which is credit recovery, has a highly qualified teacher teaching them, which would be a change because we have some circumstances district-wide, some hundreds of students who don't have that right now. We would then, so what we were trying to do was say, if we kept opening that door, who else could come in the door and how much would it cost the district to do that? So that's how we ended up with the tiers looking like this. Did you have other questions?
And I'm guessing that Henry, to your question is that you took the most at-risk students of not graduating and prioritized them first.
Yes.
And then you took the next. So the folks that are looking for additional enrichment or additional advancement beyond their grade level didn't wind up down in the highest priority. Right or wrong, I think is that how
That's
they wound
correct, yes, thanks. Yep.
But I think we should be really cautious about that, because when you look at Tier 5, I mean, your statement here is many Portland Public High School students have 1 or 2 periods a day that they're not enrolled in a class. I mean, it seems to me that this Tier 5 is a huge tool for us in terms of our new 6 of 8 class schedule, and providing opportunities for kids to be enrolled in courses that will be exciting to them or enriching to them or help them catch up on a credit or whatever it is. So I don't look at this necessarily as an extra class. I mean, it could be a 5th, a 6th, or a 7th, or an 8th class in their schedule, because we have a lot of holes in high school schedules right now. So I guess I would be cautious about using the term supplemental, because we have huge gaps in kids' schedules right now.
Well, the language classes are a good example.
Yeah.
The higher level language classes where we would, I don't really think that's a supplemental, it's just an opportunity we should make sure kids.
But it's just going to get into that budget discussion, and I really appreciated how you broke down, here's what it's going to cost, so that we can have that priority discussion.
And so what we don't want to suggest is that we're even making a recommendation. What we do want you to know is that in order to continue to add to the kinds of needs we're trying to meet with online tools and the highly qualified teachers it takes to do that, this is what we think it will cost. And there are some, you see in the materials, there are some potential cost shifting that could happen over time. We suspect that we don't really even know the scale of that yet. It might be greater than we can anticipate, it might be less than we can anticipate, and so it's one of those places where an initial new investment in online learning tools is probably going to be needed for us to have the information to know. In Pam's example of world language classes, there are a number of languages that if they were available with a centrally located teacher and they were lower interest languages, we could still keep folks moving and have a number of kids sitting in a class, not literally, but virtually together, and using those same, kind of course schedule that we now design for teachers for their teaching schedule, we can meet the needs of those kids. And so, and get towards our graduation benchmarks and our diploma requirements through that means. So, and I mean, the other hope with all of this would be that we would add more high interest tools and strategies for teachers to use. So, are there other questions? Yeah, Trudy.
I have a couple of them. The first is really just talk about the highly qualified teacher.
Yes.
And what that means. So we're talking about highly qualified meaning in any given subject matter. So you're offering a class in biology, then you have to have a highly qualified teacher.
Teacher that's licensed to teach biology.
At this point, you're not. How do you do that? Describe to me what the what the challenges are. How we're doing it now versus how we ought to be doing it.
Okay. So right now, let's just say in some of our schools, we have, they've scheduled a period, and there may be students, 30 students in that class period. Some of them taking biology, some of them taking algebra 3-4, some of them taking modern world history, some of them taking English.
Online.
Online. They come in, they sit down at their computer, they log on to their class, and that's what they're doing, and they're working at their own pace. The teacher who's assigned to that class is checking to make sure the kids are making progress. They're, making sure that the tests are proctored when the kids take tests, but it might be an English teacher in that room. So the students that are taking Algebra 3-4 don't have the help and support of an algebra teacher.
So they need access to a highly qualified teacher, but that teacher doesn't necessarily have to be in the room with
No.
them.
Correct.
Right.
No, we could have one, right now, we have, I don't have a number in my head, but we probably have 90 students taking freshman and sophomore English right now.
And again, this is all credit recovery, so
In
we don't
credit
have
recovery.
kids doing first-time
Yeah,
credit.
credit recovery, we may have 90 students across, who are sitting in rooms someplace in the district doing credit recovery English. And we could have a teacher anywhere, in a building or at home, who could be monitoring those students' progress, who could be giving them the feedback on their writing, and all of that.
But currently we
At all
don't
of this-
have that.
Currently, we don't have that.
So that's a structural issue that we need to figure out how to do that.
Right.
in
The other
order
piece of it
for the-
is the curriculum side. So currently, the curriculums that we've mostly used have few or fairly low-quality offline assignments. So online curriculum oftentimes also really needs assignments that students do without doing it virtually. And so having the teacher who receives, evaluates, gives feedback on, and moves the student forward is the other piece of that. Also, with regard to credit recovery, we don't necessarily need every student to do the whole course again. In many cases, the student is missing some of the benchmarks but has met some of them for a given course. And so we want to use the online tools for them to give evidence. We need a teacher who's qualified in that subject area to analyze that. And I mean, this is a sea change for us, over the course of the last couple of years, where it had been somewhat common for a paraeducator or someone who just had an open period in their teaching schedule to be assigned to that online learning lab supporting anybody doing any kind of credit recovery. And we don't have that luxury now. We have to have a teacher of record who is the highly qualified teacher in that subject area.
But
They don't have to be the
wouldn't
person who's
necessarily
present in
need
that
to-
lab.
You could have an educational assistant in the
Correct.
room proctoring the
Correct.
class and the
Mhm.
tests, and,
Yes.
because they're not doing the teaching.
Mhm.
But you
Yes.
have to have someone somewhere else that the student
Right.
would
Right.
report to, and it doesn't I don't know,
Doesn't
whether
have to be a
necessarily have to be at
face-to-face
that
reporting.
time,
Right.
or
No.
it could be that teacher is doing that at a different time and they're communicating
Yes.
virtually.
But right now, we, in our Learning Options Central Department, we don't have FTE to assign to that.
But that's where the increase in the budget for the
Yes.
Tier
That's
1
right.
Blue is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that will get us to that.
Right.
So